Concerns are growing over the alleged influence of the Muslim Brotherhood within British universities, amid warnings that Islamist radicalisation on campus is on the rise. The Muslim Brotherhood, an international Islamist movement, is accused by critics of operating through student organisations, with claims it uses university societies to host speakers whose views may encourage extremist ideology. The group openly promotes the slogan, "Islam is the solution," and states its long-term aim is the establishment of states governed by Sharia law. These concerns are not new. In 2014, the UK government launched a formal review into the Muslim Brotherhood after concerns were lodged by the United Arab Emirates. That inquiry, led by former Ambassador Sir John Jenkins, concluded that while the organisation's ideology ran counter to British values, there was insufficient evidence at the time to justify prescription. The current Labour government has said the issue remains under close review, but no ban has been introduced. Official figures show that during the 2023-24 academic year, 70 university students were flagged for potential referral to the Prevent De-Radicalisation programme over Islamist radicalisation concerns, nearly double the previous year, from a student population of almost 3 million. Against this backdrop, the United Arab Emirates has taken decisive action. Their authorities have removed British universities from their official list of overseas institutions eligible for state-funded scholarships. A revised list published in June includes universities in the United States, Australia, France and Israel, but none from the UK. British officials later confirmed the exclusion was deliberate. One source familiar with the discussions told The Times that Emirati officials did not want students exposed to potential radicalisation on UK campuses. The impact is already visible. Just 213 study visas were granted to UAE nationals in the year ending September 2025, a sharp fall compared with previous years. Abu Dhabi has also said it will not recognise degrees from universities excluded from its approved list. The UAE has maintained a hardline stance against Islamist movements since the Arab uprising of 2011 and classifies the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organisation. It has repeatedly urged Britain to follow suit. While the United States has designated offshoots and individuals linked to the movement as terrorists, it has not banned the organisation as a whole. France, meanwhile, has moved to clamp down on what it describes as political Islam. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has now pledged to outlaw the Muslim Brotherhood should he become Prime Minister. Speaking at his party's conference this week, Mr Farage said Britain must stop what he called dangerous organisations with links to terrorism operating in the country. GB News has approached the Muslim Brotherhood for comment.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Now, the United Arab Emirates is restricting students from enrolling at British universities over fears that campuses in Britain are radicalising people by Islamist groups here on British soil. It's an astonishing story. Let's now speak with the former independent advisor to the UK government on political violence, Lord Walney. Lord Walney, it's a delight to have your company. A very, very belated Happy New Year to you, sir. Thank you for joining us today on GB News. I find this story incredible, that the United Arab Emirates is restricting funding to students to come to Britain because they're concerned that they could be radicalised in British universities by Islamist groups. This is incredible.
It must sound an alarm right across the university network, but also the country, that the situation has got so bad here. And actually what the United Arab Emirates are saying through their action on their own students matches exactly what they've been saying to the United Kingdom privately for many, many years now, that the problem that we have here with Muslim Brotherhood influenced groups, with the fear of radicalisation towards Islamist extremism and potentially violence, is very significant, and it is actually much greater than in the UAE itself. And it's really important that people hear this message and that they see that this is actually a proud Muslim country that's taking this action, and that makes this warning to us. And I think it can break the myth that is propagated by those who would like to see this kind of extremism and radicalisation running riot in our country. It breaks the myth that this is about Muslims and Islam itself. It's actually about a specific interpretation of that faith, which is practiced by and propagated and pushed by people who are adherents to a radical ideology, who want ultimately to replace democratic and legitimate governments across the West and in the Middle East with an Islamic caliphate, which is beholden to a harsh interpretation of Quranic laws. That is not the view of the majority of Muslims. It's not the view of that government, and it's certainly not what the vast majority, I think, of British Muslims in the UK want.
Lord Walney, my next question then is this. We've seen incidents where Jewish students are terrified on British campuses, particularly during the pro-Palestine protests, the camps, the sit-ins. We've seen lecturers forced off of campuses by radicalised students. The UAE took the step of prescribing the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organisation. Nigel Farage would like to do the same here in the United Kingdom. Do you think that's something that we should be considering?
Yeah, we absolutely need to talk much more clearly and openly about the threat that the Muslim Brotherhood poses on the streets and in communities, and in this instance on campuses right across Britain. We had a discussion in the House of Lords about the Muslim Brotherhood that my friend and colleague Dean Godson, Lord Godson of the Policy Exchange think tank, brought into the House of Lords chamber this week. And it was really notable how reticent the government minister was to acknowledge the scale of the problem. Now, behind the scenes, they absolutely know this, but this is now the moment that this needs to stop being the exclusive concern and conversations behind closed doors between our security services. We need to be much more open about what is happening. We need to be confident that this is about actually protecting British people, including protecting British Muslims, from the extremism that is propagated by a minority, but a vocal minority, and a well-organised and well-funded minority. We have to call this out, and that has to be part of a properly coordinated government strategy to counter extremism.
Lord Walney, a lot of people will be totally agreeing with the sentiment there, but we've seen historically, have we not, a reluctance to act for fear of being called racist, for fear of being called Islamophobic, particularly when we have this situation where there's a new interpretation, new definition being drafted. Is there any merit in the notion that the Labour Party in particular are soft-soaping the Muslim community because they want their votes?
Well, there's always the danger of short-term electoral concerns here, but it hasn't been. This hasn't been specific to the Labour Party. I think parties of both the main parties, all the mainstream parties of government, have actually fallen foul of wanting an easy life and of when they are faced with these angry calls that any incursion into talking about radicalisation is itself a slur on all British Muslims, is itself an example of Islamophobia, which is, of course, as you suggest, a live issue currently, what that definition is going to be and how it's going to be enacted. People have just wanted to put their head in the sand and hope that people won't accuse them of being prejudiced or being racist. But frankly, that should never have happened. We have to turn a corner now. And bluntly, if we don't do this, the British public can see, by and large, exactly what is happening. They know what a problem this is, and we have to be able to own this and show that this is not about Islam itself. It is not about British Muslims as a whole. It's about a particular perversion of that faith, which, as has helpfully been pointed out, I think, today by the action of the United Arab Emirates, is actually something that Muslim majority nations feel very acutely and have been prepared to take much more firm action against than we've been prepared to do thus far in the United Kingdom.
Lord Wanley, excellently put, as ever. Thank you again for your time today, and I hope to see much more of you in 2026. Thank you, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Now, the GB News has contacted the Home Office, and however, we are yet to hear a response. But on the issue of prescribing the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organisation, the current government indicated last year that the matter remains under, quote, close review.